Hey everyone, Couch Investor back to another video for you today. So let's talk about one of the most anti-fragile companies in the market, in the world basically, which is Google. I'll also show you how you can use stockcard.io to facilitate your research a bit later in this video. Now, Google is reporting earnings tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. It will probably be covered at the end of the week in the weekly recap, but here's what to be expected. So they expect to report earnings per share of $27.22, that's up 22% year over year, and revenue of $71.87 billion, that's up 26.2% year over year. Quite nice numbers even for a huge company like Google. Now let's have a quick look at the last quarter's numbers because there are some interesting ones there. Alright, so this was Q3, revenue grew 41% or 39% on a constant currency revenue year over year to $65.11 billion. Operating income almost doubled, 21 billion, operating margins of 32%. Pretty crazy. Net income just shy of 19 billion and then diluted earnings per share almost 28. Now, obviously, the Google business is divided in a couple of segments, the biggest one being search and others. Search is probably the biggest moat a company can have. YouTube ads grew around 40% or so, quite nicely to $7.2 billion. And I expect that to grow even more as YouTube becomes even bigger each and every year. Now, Google Network just shy of $8 billion. Just look at the number here, 7.999. So all of that resulted in Google advertising, which is what concludes all of those three segments, to $53.13 billion. Now, as for advertising, I do want to add a couple of things here. So obviously we know that Google has basically an advertising monopoly or maybe a duopoly with Facebook. But over the next few years, Google's market share could, I say could because it's not sure, could decline as the likes of Amazon, because yes, Amazon have been growing their advertising side of the business quite nicely. So it could gradually decline as Amazon and other small advertising platforms carve up the market. For example, eMarketer expects Google's share of digital ads in the United States to decline 28.6% in 2021 to 26.4%. Now, obviously, you can say, all right, that might decline, but doesn't the overall global digital advertising market grow? And you are 100% correct, because the global digital advertising market could still grow at a compound annual growth rate of 15.3% between 2020 and 2025. That's according to Research and Markets. The research firm also expects the market to continue expanding at a CAGR of 13.7% between 2025 and 2030. So while it might seem like they're losing market share, maybe you should look at how much the total addressable market has grown over time and look at the actual numbers. Now I'm going to talk about the cloud side of the business a bit later. Just first, let's jump into stockcard.io and see how you could use the platform and using all of its information. All right, so we're here on stockcard.io. This is basically the page for Alphabet or Google. Alphabet, the parent company, but basically Google generates 90-something% of all their revenue. So this is what you get, a nice little overview right here. High growth potential, strong operations, calm investor sentiment. Usually if it's a growth stock and it has gone down a lot, you would see this thing go in red. It outperformed the market. It's a fairly priced stock. And then the analyst consensus, obviously majority a buy, 33, and then 1 hold. Now, if you scroll down, you'll get a little introduction of the company and the various segments. And here a nice little report. So the earnings per share for the trailing 12 months is $105. You get the free cash flow, total long-term debt annually, PE ratio of almost 26, price to sales ratio of 7.58. Then you see the analyst price target. This is basically the average analyst price target. So quite a nice bump on the current one. If it were to pay dividends, you would see that number right here. Now, obviously, you can go down and scroll through all of those various cards right here. High growth potential, it will tell you exactly why the system thinks so. There are some benchmark numbers, and if it's green, that means that Google is exceeding those. And then you see here on the left, you see here advertising strategy with a little VIP badge. This is what happens when you turn your free membership into a VIP membership. Link will be down in the description below, and you can use the code CouchInvestor. Basically, it answers those questions here. Is it good for buy and hold? You click on that and then you see that it goes through a couple of metrics. If it gets a nice score, then it will be awarded the good for a buy and hold portfolio. I highly suggest you go play around on StockCart. Obviously, there is a free version of the website and then there is a premium one. Depends on how much research you want to do. The premium one is certainly very, very good and easy to use for those that do a lot of research. There's also the link to our channel's portfolio that's free to follow. So the links will be down in the description and in the pinned comment below. Now let's go and have a quick talk about the cloud market, because obviously with Amazon, with Microsoft and Google and the cloud market ever expanding, Google does want to grow that segment as well, because compared to the other two, Google is still a smallish player. So the global cloud market could expand at a compound annual growth rate of 17.3% between 2021 and 2027. That's according to Report Ocean. Now, Google Cloud, like I said, only controls around 8% of the global cloud infrastructure market. That's for the numbers than the last quarter, putting it in a distant third place behind Amazon Web Services, which sits at 32%, and Microsoft Azure, which sits at 21%. So there's still a lot of room to grow for Google with regards to that segment. Also very important to note, and that's why I call Google one of the most anti-fragile companies out there, is that Google is not just the United States, right? Google is a global company. Most of its revenue is foreign currency. So even if the dollar experiences a, let's say, crash in currency, doesn't really affect Google that much, which if you're a US shareholder, this could play in your advantage. Now there are other segments in Google as well, or Alphabet. Google Pixel phone has become much better each and every year. I heard the Pixel 6 is actually an incredible phone with an amazing camera. I own a Samsung one, but that's what I heard from the peers, the guys like MKBHD. They also have lots of smart home products such as Nest. And then there's obviously the autonomous side of the business, which is Waymo. A lot of people forget that Waymo is owned by Google, but that side obviously is still extremely small, still in the experimental stage. So that will take some time until you see some results from that side. But overall, when you invest in Google right now, the majority of the money is coming from the advertising side of the business. That doesn't mean that the other segments won't grow. Just mean, just like with Facebook, most of its revenue comes from advertising, but it is growing the other segments as well. It could use that money to expand maybe their hardware products, such as the phone, maybe Chromebooks, TVs, whatever. So when you invest in Google, you invest in one of the best anti-fragile companies around the world, generating a lot of money, generating a lot of profit. It's exactly what you want in this type of market. And even if it's one of the biggest companies in the world, as you can see, it's still growing quite nicely. So this has not become a value company right now. It's still a very good growth company. It's in my second portfolio where I own just 4 stocks. You can follow that one on StockCart as well. And that will be it for this video. Let me know down in the comments below if you own Google, what you think about Google, and what do you expect from tomorrow's earnings report. Let me know down in the comments below. If you like this type of videos, leave it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, maybe hit that subscribe button. As always guys, take care, stay safe, and see you all in the next video. Bye bye.